Good day, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to our event this afternoon. I am your host, Mika Lopez, and together with me is Miss Judith Daguman, our moderator. Hi, Judith. We appreciate all of you for taking time to join our event this afternoon. I hope that you will learn a lot in the presentation our team and our speakers have prepared for you. Allow me to introduce this webinar titled NEO Educators Best Online and Virtual Practices Going into the New Normal. This program will provide engaging discussions on how to create appropriate policies for your online and potential blended learning programs and implement the finest virtual teaching methods in the new normal. We'll also go through how to use the capabilities of NEO LMS, especially the assessment tools you'll need to get the most out of your online and or blended learning programs. We'll also understand why digital citizenship is essential for students to have. This afternoon, we invited professionals who will share their knowledge, experiences, and best practices for online or blended learning programs. They will also talk about implementation and evaluation of policies and learning programs, creating appropriate and effective assessments, digital citizenship, and of course, the NEO learning management systems. These topics will surely guide us in shaping our virtual experiences in the years ahead. Before we start, I would like to remind everyone that you may engage with us by sending your comments and questions through our comment section. And to our attendees who registered to our site will receive a certificate for their participation. Just scan the QR code that you can see on the screen. Certificates will be issued at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our guest speakers for today. Our first speaker is the academic coordinator for STEM and ICT cluster for the Senior High School of De La Salle University, Dasmariñas, Cavite. She is teaching mathematics and also one of the trusted experts when it comes to online learning. Our first guest speaker is Ms. Liza Witizon. Our next speaker is the Vice President for Academics at the University of St. Louis Tuguegarao. He is an advocate of quality teaching and learning and leadership and empowerment. Let us welcome Dr. Emmanuel James Pataguan. We also invited the LMS administrator for University of Batangas. He experienced presenting at international conferences. Sorry. We also invited the LMS administrator of the University of Batangas. He experienced presenting at international conferences and also participated in different EdTech activities. Our speaker is also included in the top 5 finalists in the NEO LMS Film Fest in 2021. Our third speaker is Mr. Alfie Garing. Our next speaker holds 2 major roles at University of the Visayas. He is the director of the Center of Innovative Education and also the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. He will be sharing his knowledge in the implementation and evaluation of online and hybrid learning program. Put your hands together for Dr. Rami Bulay Bulay. Here with us also is the Vice President for Academic Research at Father Saturnino Urios University. He is a graduate of the Catholic University of Louvain in Belgium and currently an advocate for student learning. Let's give our warm welcome to Reverend Father Randy Jasper Ochike. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly lend your ears to our speakers. Let me call on our first speaker, Miss Liza Bitizon.
Okay, so hi everyone, it's Judith. I am your moderator for today, and currently Miss Lisa she still has to come into our panelists. So I'm going to pass the floor to our first focus area, which will be the policy development for online and blended learning programs by Doc James. So again, Doc James is the representative from the University of St. Louis, and we're going to give him some time to present first how the policies of the University of St. Louis is being done using their LMS, and then we're going to have a roundtable discussion facilitated by yours truly. So, Doc James, if it's okay, you can start our panel discussion for today.
Mm. Thank you, Miss Judith. And if you may allow me to share screen, as I've sounded a while back. So I'm going to make a brief presentation about our implementation of online education, which I have shared for several times already in view of the fact that we have adopted online education as early as 2016. And I always would want to say thank you to one of Cypher Learning's officials, I would like to call Dr. Miss Jen Padernal, for inspiring us or launching us towards NEO LMS, and eventually the rest will be history, as I always say. And well, so I'd like to just mention that again, we did benchmarking with De La Salle University Das Marinas. And then by virtue of our partnership and membership to Asian University Digital Resource Network, where I met Ms. Jen Padernal, who eventually introduced me into the NEO LMS. And then eventually then we adopted the learning management system platform, also wanting to address the concerns of educators like us, in an area where we are always visited also by storms or disasters. And so eventually we also said it's high time that we should also make use of online learning, which eventually we said should really be part of our blended learning system so that the face-to-face and the full online would proceed as such. And so eventually in 2016 and 2017, we adopted the full online to complement our traditional. And I'd like to mention here that only 77% of our faculty at the time we wanted the undergrad or the college and the graduate school to fully adapt the use of full online. And well, as I've said, only 77% complied. Well, the 23% of the faculty who did not adhere to the the call, for the use of full online, well, eventually we have to ask permission. I mean, to do a survey, a kind of interview with them, and well, we found out that they have some reasons which we wanted really to address because we wanted full compliance to the use of the learning management system. So in 2017 and 2018, then eventually we said we make it mandatory, so everybody should really comply. And Miss Jen was telling me you are very fast in doing it because when we did benchmarking, she was also sharing the experience of De La Salle at the time. And well, the remaining 1%, because in the year 2017, 2018, 99% of our faculty already complied. And yet, there was still 1% who did not. And so I also still have to be hands-on and ask the 1%. Still the reason why they did not comply. And so, well, I'd like to say that eventually then, when the country was locked down by virtue of the March 2020 declaration of the then of President Duterte, I know that the USL was really ready to transition from the traditional into the full online, which was the immediate solution so that learning can continue. And so eventually, as uh, as I'm asked to share about how policies develop into the transition, no, from the traditional into the online. And so I'd like to tell that there have been discussions, long discussions, I'd like to say, insofar as development of new policies. Take note that, well, we were already with policies that are really fully face to face in terms of modality of teaching. And eventually we'll have to shift. But again, there were already existing policies on the use of the learning management system in the university. So in our school, it's the academic council consisting of the vice president for academics, the academic deans, the principals, and the academic support units, research director, director of libraries, among others, who really sit down to propose policies. So we did retrofitting of our policies, and after thorough study by the academic council, this is then forwarded to administration, to the president, and eventually to the board of trustees, who will have to approve, no, of the new policies. Well, consequently, there were new policies in the light of the fact that, well, where students are online and there is no chance for us to be as objective as possible because we do not know what's happening out there in the virtual world while examinations go on and so on and so forth. And so, well, we made some adjustments in our grading system and eventually even in our academic scholarship policies. Well, just to mention, because I cannot give you the full details, but in the interest of time, I'm telling that while we retrofitted, no, structures as a result of the pandemic, we also did retrofitting of our academic policies, if only that we are really abreast of the trends or the developments in education and in fact even in the implementation of the different protocols to ensure the health and wellness of every stakeholder in the university. I can proceed even more, but well, if there is still time, I can also share the other part of my presentation. Miss Judith?
Hi, Doc James. Thank you so much. So it's a great way to start out our panel discussion for today. So can I request all of our panelists to please open their cameras, and you may unmute your mics if you would like to share your ideas also about policy development for online and blended learning programs. So Father Randy, Doc Rami, I'm Sir Alfie, and we're still waiting for Ma'am Lisa, but it's okay po. Okay, so I would like to start out with this very first question. Let me just get my notes. This can be for all of our panelists, but who do you consult for the policy developments of our online and blended learning program? So for Sir James, of course, we would like to give you the floor, and then we're going to pass it around to the other panelists.
Mhm. Yes, Miss Judith. Well, I mentioned in my presentation that the academic council is large, you know, the formulation of academic policies, so that when we shifted from the traditional into the online, we have to make necessary adjustments in terms of the grading system and even consequently the scholarship because again, that was really the way to go because I tell you, after first semester of that declaration of March 2020 of a lockdown, we noticed that because we really needed to understand the students well, from where they are, their characteristics to be able to continue education. Well, I noticed that there was a sudden increase in terms of the number of academic scholars by
Oh,
virtue
okay.
of the adjustment and eventually the understanding and a lot of considerations we did make for students. No, there's delay in the submission of performance tasks, among others, and still they would be considered. No, so eventually, even some other policies really needed to be retrofitted, as I was saying, because, well, all of a sudden, we cannot expect that there would be like a as much as 80% increase, no, in terms of number of academic scholars by virtue of, well, the leniency, I'd like to say, when we gave a lot of considerations, extensions for the submissions of outputs, and eventually that made our academic grading system or the grading system as such to be with a tinge of, how would I call it, a doubt, for example. No? How sure are we that the one who did the test was the student, no, of
Opo.
yours?
Yes.
And so those kinds of Miss Judith. Perhaps it will
Okay.
really be nice if the other panelists could also share their thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc James. How about Doc Rami? So all the way from the University of Visayas, we have Doc Rami Bulay Bulay.
Right.
Uh, Hi,
Judith.
Doc Rami. Nice to see you again.
Hello, Miss Judith, Miss Jan, and to our fellow panelists this afternoon. So thank you for inviting the University of Visaya. So when it comes to Miss Judith, when it comes to policy development, particularly with the implementation of the flexible learning system of our university, we created a sort of think tank. As you all know, most of us were caught off guard with the health crisis that struck the world. So it's really difficult to, particularly on our end, because most of our students are coming from class C and D, and so because of the need to shift to online platform, and so there have been some challenges on the part of our students. And so what we did was, of course, the academic council is there, but we also need to ensure that we are also getting the side of the end users, the learners. And so we created a group of individuals, mostly faculty members, who we consider as a group of innovative educators. And so they are also, we also sourced from them what is really happening in the ground, the challenges of our students, the challenges of our faculty members. And we also consult them, and we consult them most often because they are the ones really who understood, no? And who experienced the challenges of our primary stakeholders. But definitely, of course, the higher ups of the institution, the academic council, the office of the chief academic officer.
Yeah.
That's yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Doc Rami. So just to add to that, since we're still on this topic, no, I would like to ask about how DLSUD Senior High School runs it. So this is already on in a senior high school context. So Doc James and Doc Rami, no, they were talking about it in a higher education or higher institution. What about for DLSUD Senior High School? Can we give just a bit of insight on especially how NEO accommodates the policies created for the program? So, Ma'am Lisa. Hi, ma'am. Ma- Ma'am, you're on mute. Ma'am, you're on mute po. Hello? Okay, so I think Ma'am Lisa might be having some technical difficulty. So maybe we can go back to her and maybe we can ask Sir Alfie of the University of Batangas that same question. How does NEO accommodate policies created for the program, and how does it compare to what UV and St. Louis?
Yes, thank you. University of Batangas has been using NEO since 2017. Actually, I think prior to 2017, we have already uh, we have already adopted a NEO. In terms of policies, so it's more likely with St. Louis University, wherein they consult the academic council, and that's also what we do. We do have our academic committees. In fact, we do have already established, which is the UB Fields. It stands for Flexible Enhancements in Educational Learning System. And aside from this, so we do have created and created other policies prior to the pandemic. We do have open laboratory policies wherein our students can actually have the flexibility to access NEO, whether in school or at home. Yeah,
Mm,
and
that's good.
so there are a lot of policies that we have created alongside with the different academic committees.
Okay, thank you. So that for that, Sir Alfie. So sakto po tayo sa 7 minutes, no? So we're going to proceed with our
Hmm.
I think we lost Judith there for a while. So, Mika, can we, the next part of the program while we're waiting for Judith to come back?
Yeah,
Sabi nga
it's
nila, if it's green, it's environment. If it's number, it's math. If it's not working, it's probably technology, but that's not going to stop us from continuing with our fruitful discussion for today. So take it away, Mika.
Thank you, Miss Jen. So let's proceed to the next part of the event. Let me call on Miss Lisa Fedison.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Yes. Okay, so I am to share what we're doing at DLSUD Senior High School. So, um, so can you see the PowerPoint already? So,
Yes, Miss Lisa, we can see it.
yes,
You might
best
want to put it
practices.
into a PowerPoint show, please there.
So best practices in online and virtual classes going into the new normal from DLSUD Senior High School. So 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, we were all forced to face the situation of COVID-19. We were all forced to stay at home. Schools were closed. Forced to have and because of this situation, there was a academic right? But thankfully, BLSUD has been using blended learning for more than a decade already. So there was this platform already that is ready for use for online classes, which is NEO LMS, and we call it school. Uh, but of course, what is different here is it's not no longer blended. We have to do full online class. And everyone, I think, are new to this 2 years ago. So the university was quick to respond, coming up with a strategy on how learning will continue. Uh, so we came up with the leadership of our principal and our vice chancellor for academics and research of the university, we came up with the ANIMO strategy. It was designed thinking of the COVID-19 pandemic and what we call now the new normal, and the ED's learning continuity plan, and DLSQD's care model, or caring for what matters. The animal strategy was designed taking into account challenges faced by our students and teachers because of the pandemic and with the new fully online learning modality. So let me just share with you key features of the animal strategy. It is fully online modality wherein discussion, lectures, assessments, and consultation are done online. Then it is designed as a modular course. A semester is split into term 1 and term 2. If a student is enrolled in 10 subjects per term, they will be overwhelmed with two subject per day for synchronous and asynchronous uh, lessons. Students get feedback and opportunity consultation during summative assessments because of what we call gateway assessments, wherein a student cannot complete their module unless they are able to pass the summative exam or gateway assessment. And they have several attempts to do this. So they are able to get feedback during, while, before, or after they take their gateway assessment. Unlike during face-to-face, our students get feedback for exams. They get feedback after they are graded. Here, they get to have consultation with their teachers and try again. So it's more of mastery and competition with oneself and not with others, with their classmates. And of course, you have the gamification of classes. For pacing, we have combination of self-paced and class-paced. Self-paced, we recognize that there are students who learn during the day and some during the night. So they have the option to do all their autonomous tasks whenever they want to do each subject. And class-paced is when we have the synchronous discussions. And it's a collaboration of stakeholders, administration, teachers, students, parents, wherein the ANIMO strategy would work. The support system is also in place. We have the Learning Resource Center. It's like our library. Our concerns, we have a support system for concerns on the use of technology. We have our student wellness and, of course, our homeroom. Now, this the more exciting what makes it work for us. Okay, so number one, it's leadership really, because our leaders provide a unity of purpose and direction. It steers the organization towards something at a common goal, and we have to have well-established policies and guidelines, policies that set up teachers and students for success. So what do I mean by this? Our policy shouldn't be a burden to our teachers and students. The policies allow set up our teachers, command them to be able to succeed and not get frustrated. There should also be consistent monitoring and measurement, standards that are doable and observable, compelling our teachers to fully utilize our school book or our NEO LMS. And like I said, constant monitoring and feedback. You don't just monitor, you give feedback on how else they can improve, especially for our teachers. Empowered teachers. I think this is very important, which is why the Animo strategy works. We have training, of course. Everyone trains their teachers to be for them to be able to do online classes, for them to be familiar and knowledgeable with the applications. But we also part of the system is teamwork. We allow the development of syllabus and creation of school book classes to be in teams so that the burden is distributed, and also the knowledge and the creativity is compounded. And lastly, this is my favorite. It's the sharing of best practices. We call them the Animo Lecture Series, wherein we request our teachers to volunteer and share their best practices in their conduct of online classes. So we have done two already, and it was fun seeing teachers share and other teachers getting inspired to do better because of how they are learning from their peers. So there, moving forward, our direction would be learning. Our learning from the pandemic is, yes, fully online classes can be done, and it opens up possibilities. Like we are looking into offering a senior high school that is fully online. We will continue to listen and do our best to be responsive to all stakeholders. They are actually one of the key components of policy making. Number three, continuous improvement requires us to raise the standards, setting goals for the new goals for the school, the teachers, and the students. Because as they merit, as they comply, and they master the standards that we have initially set, sure that they would reach a level of excellence, and that would be the new normal. So therefore, there should be room for improvement in the setting of new standards. We are also transitioning our teachers from instructors to facilitators because we want to be recognized as a 21st century high school. That is all. Thank you very much. That is a case of the LSUD Senior High School.
Thanks, Ma'am Lisa. So I'm back. My internet seems to be better now. So I'm going to start off this particular part. So this is about the best practices for online and synchronous for teachers. So I'm going to just throw this question to Father Randy. So hi, Father. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, so you've heard what DLSUD Senior High School is doing, and of course, you probably also have an idea of what is happening in FCUU, one of our a great university. Um, how do the how in your opinion, or how you observe it, how do the teachers develop the critical thinking skills of learners when they're using NEO LMS? So they have the tool NEO LMS, and then they also have to start doing critical thinking, no? So how do they try to improve and to develop the critical thinking skills of learners?
Basically, in our case, good afternoon, everyone. In our case here in Urios in FSUU, what we did was basically to first connect the outcomes and competencies
Oh.
desired to particular lessons and assessments. From there, you can easily work out the critical thinking part, because if the competency and the outcome that is envisioned in a particular class or lesson, if it's connected immediately, and this is the nice thing about NEO LMS, which we branded here in FSUU as FSUU Learn. No, so and what we do is basically ask our teachers, especially at the basic ed, no, because we're implementing this across from basic ed to grad school. Uh, and so what we did is basically connect the competency, the desired outcome, and then to a particular class or assessment. And from there, we will be able to map out whether the critical thinking skills part, the higher order thinking skills, are attained by students. No, so just and because of this, we're able to also be aware that there are least learned competencies. No, using the analytics in the NEO LMS and FSU Learn. No, so what we're later on, I'll be sharing a little bit about our project for the summer, for a summer remediation program that we've initiated for students in relation to their least learned competency. So parang sinasabi namin sa mga estudyante namin, your remediation program for your least learned competencies will be on us. It's for free. It's an offering for the school para no one gets left behind. Thanks.
Thanks. So going back to the case use of DLSUD Senior High School. Hi, Ma'am Lisa. We would just like to ask, no, of course, we're trying to do content, we're trying to develop critical thinking skills, but how do we also make sure that our teachers are also practicing proper classroom management using NEO LMS?
Well, basically, we do our synchronous classes via MS Teams, but there are tools in NEO LMS that we use, like attendance. and also forums, right? So because we don't require our students to open their cams, we don't do that, but we find ways to engage them, like the tools of MS Teams, and also we provide a venue for discussion using NEO LMS. So usually the forums works
Oh
for
yeah.
us.
Yeah, the forums. Okay, so I think Doc James was raising his hand. Sir, Doc James, would you like to provide a little more insight of also class management strategies that the institution uses? Sir, naka-mute po kayo, Doc.
Sorry. Okay. So I raise my hand because I'd like to share that the conventional classroom management practices are still being done online, especially during the synchronous sessions. At one point, I'd like to share to you that, for example, in the past, because we did after year one with the declaration of the lockdown, no, in 2020, and eventually towards the end of that semester, we really needed to have an academic summit to ask all sectors because we would like really to know what's wrong and what are the areas we needed to work on or to improve on. And so the teachers said that during teleconferencing, they do not know if the students are there because the students always make use of poor connectivity as an issue so that their faces cannot be shown, no, in the video, or they may not open their cam. And so eventually we made a big decision to come up with a policy that we really have to put back recitation, attendance, which initially we did not include anymore, to be given points. Now, in fairness to the teacher, who will really have to do a lecture, who will start with a prayer, will
Yeah.
still check the attendance using some tools, you know. And so classroom management was basically the same because, again, even in the faculty evaluation that we did, no, we make a little adjustments from the physical classroom into a virtual classroom. So what did we expect to see? We really have to change a bit the tool. So in fact, as I've said from the beginning, no, in my 14 PowerPoint slide, I only shared 7, no, but there are more stories to tell in there. That the classroom management, no, of still asking the students to answer properly, still asking some students to lead the prayer, among others, they were still there. So basically, these are old-time principles that we needed to start. No? So there's a pre-opening, there still is the motivation, the typical thing. No? But what's nice about the coming in of the NEO LMS is, of course, you know that all the features that you really needed
Yeah.
to use, no, to accompany you with the principles of classroom management, they are still there. And well, even myself as VP for academics, I really would really get two teaching loads because I also would like to make it a point that I really watch my teachers doing it. And if I may also share, we have two people in the learning management system. They are immediately beside my office, no? And these are the people who would be 24/7 available. No? I probably have shared this in a session, the first NEO session last time, because when we were talking about leadership. And true enough, there's a mention by Miss Lisa about the support of administration. It really would require that there's a good leader ensuring that online education really takes place. Because I tell you, that's what I did. I brought my president to the De La Salle University, DASMA, when we did the benchmarking. The rest will be history, and thank you, Jen, because I know that I was really journeying with Jen at that time. Jen, please allow us to benchmark, and we did that. So, well, anyway, I will allow the others to share. So, just to mention that the usual classroom management practices should still be there. So we will not forget that. And a lot of policies on etiquettes so that the students will still behave. At one time, we wanted to know whether it would be appropriate to have or to require the uniform because that's part of classroom management,
Yes.
certain point. No? But eventually, we said it, well, parents did not like the idea because we normally do consultation with also with parents, which we did even prior to the opening of or the continuity of the learning after the declaration of the lockdown. No, we consulted parents, teachers, and students, find out where they are, what their characteristics are in terms of technology, in terms of connectivity, in terms of availability of a space for learning, all those. We did a research and it really brought us to make a good decision, arriving eventually at the modalities. And there are four modalities that we have had, which I did not share already because I was so conscious of that time. Thank you, Miss Judith.
Thanks, Doc James. That's really insightful. Through those best practices, those are things that we can definitely pick up and share with the entire NEO community. So thank you for your insight. So before we go to our next focus topic, I would just like to get the insight of Sir Alfie. He has his hand raised, and then we're going to go to the next one. So, hi, Sir Alfie. Would you like to share anything praise from what Ma'am Lisa and Doc James is able to talk with about or mention?
Yeah, with regards to attendance, I just would like to add a couple of features that we use also with by the way, so that's how we customized it. What I would really want to impart right now is the login history and the live feed that we really utilize these things in order to track whether the students are really checking their LMS accounts, if they are accessing it, and where they are currently accessing their accounts. So from there, so we have now some information about how are they accessing the platform itself. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, thank you for that, Sir Alfie. So, just a reminder to any of our, to all of our attendees, rather, if you do have questions for our panelists or about the topics, please do not hesitate to chat them in the chat box or in our Q&A part. Okay, so we're going to go to our next focus topic, and I think that focus topic is going to be the implementation and evaluation of online or blended learning programs. So, Dr. Rami Bulay Bulay, he's going to be the one to present the best practices of UV. So, Doc
Right.
Rami.
Yes, thank you, Miss Judith. Once again, maayong hapon sa tanan. Good afternoon. Let me share, permission to share my slides. Can you see it, Miss Judith?
Yes, Doc Rami.
All right, sorry about that. Let me proceed. Okay, so of course, the University of the Visayas would like to express our sincerest gratitude to Cypher Learning for the opportunity to share the implementation of the flexible learning program of our school, the first university in Cebu City. So our flexible learning system in the University of the Visayas has been guided by the vision of the university, which is to become an internationally recognized private non-sectarian university committed to academic excellence, transformational and innovative education. Hence, innovative education is one of the key performance indicators of the university's strategic plan for the next 3 years. As a result, in 2020, the University of Visayas has established the Center for Innovative Education, or CIE, to provide transformational and innovative education, and the purpose of which is to create a technologically driven learning environment for the University of the Visayas community. The CIE spearheaded the crafting of the flexible learning system, which has been instrumental in the continuance of delivering quality education at this time when the world is facing a health crisis. We started with the production of printed modules for all our students from the basic to undergraduate programs. This was in the middle of the pandemic. As we progressed, we updated our flexible learning approach and shifted to electronic modules, or what we call as e-modules. During that time, we were looking for a learning management system which would benefit our primary stakeholders, our students and faculty members, of course. And so we are very grateful to Cypher Learning for introducing to us a NEO LMS platform. In the University of Visayas, we call it as UV Access. Now, as part of our flexible learning system, we crafted a detailed guideline on modality of learning under the new normal. This was specially done for our primary stakeholders for them to choose the best suited learning modality based on their capability of their devices, as well as to address the challenges of internet connectivity among our students. So as you all know, in the Visayas region, internet infrastructure is not that good yet. And so, and coupled with the fact that our students are coming from classes B, C, and D, and so we had to ensure that everyone is provided with quality education. And so we had the hybrid and online modality of learning. So we do this to ensure that our students can continue with their studies amidst the pandemic. And then true to its commitment of providing quality education, even at this difficult time, the University of the Visayas has initiated 4 delivery schedules in a semester. We divided the semester into 4 academic sessions and distributed the subjects taken by a student equally. So students can focus on specific subjects on a particular academic session by providing them a program of study. This allows our students to take full load, but with flexibility in the completion of their subjects. And then in the implementation of the NEO LMS in the University of the Visayas, as part of our innovative program, UV has also challenged its faculty members to produce e-modules prior to the opening of classes. We incentivize our faculty members who have become course developers. With the cooperation of our teachers, we were able to produce e-modules with complete contents. This allows our hybrid students or asynchronous students to continue independent learning. And aside from the contents, these e-modules also have complete assessment tasks wherein students need to comply. In addition to that, we also employ the competencies mapping available in the LMS, which turned out to be helpful in evaluating the progress of our learners. And then on top of this, we also are using the item analysis feature in the learning management system, which allows us to assess and improve the reliability of the tests prepared by our teachers for continuous improvement. Before, it was manually done by our teachers, but because of the introduction of NEO LMS or the LMS in our university, we're able to do this. And then we also have, we are using, aside from NEO LMS, we subscribe also to Office 365, particularly Microsoft Teams. We created a virtual room where students and teachers can get in for assistance regarding their online classes and inquiries. We do this because UV puts premium to customer service among our stakeholders. And then we also continuously engage our faculty and students with upskilling sessions and introduce them to various digital learning tools. We document all our activities and create a course in the LMS where teachers can easily access them, especially if they missed a retooling session. And then the University of the Visayas also gamify our faculty members' progress in the usage of our digital tools by recognizing them for their performance. Our top emerging teachers are recognized during the school's annual Quality Awards Day. And then in terms of the evaluation tools, we use the LMS report feature to generate data so we can evaluate the extent of the usage among teachers and students. We then analyze them so we can propose innovative action plans for continuous improvement. To evaluate the features of our learning platforms, we always involve end users through the conduct of evaluation sessions through Microsoft Forms. We also analyze the generated data so we can recommend programs for both students and teachers. The evaluation system in our flexible learning has allowed us to propose innovative programs responsive to the needs of our primary stakeholders. One of the results was the shift from modular to hybrid flexible learning. And then the super typhoon Odette came. The super typhoon claimed the lives of more than 400 individuals and destroyed properties, injuring thousands and cumulatively displacing 3.4 million people and with 1.7 million damaged or destroyed houses. Cebu, an economic powerhouse in the Visayas, was without power for almost a month. For UV, our number one concern then was the welfare of our primary stakeholders. We had to extend our semester to give students maximum consideration in submitting their assessment tasks. The good thing was we have already undergone prior to December 16, when the super typhoon hit Cebu, we have already undergone a disaster-proof education training with Ms. Jen from Cypher Learning, and we implemented it. Since teachers have already produced their e-modules, complete with contents and assessment tasks, we focus then on how students can have access to power so they can open their LMS accounts and complete their activities. So the practice of disaster-proof education was also of great help when Cebu was placed on several lockdowns due to increasing number of COVID-19 cases. And finally, because of these innovative programs, the University of Visayas has been recognized by the Commission on Higher Education and other award-giving bodies for its flexible learning system. Daghang salamat ug padayon tang tanan. Thank you.
Grabe talaga ang UV. UV, to be honest, just a little bit, I've worked with UV since the start, since last year, and it's so great to always be with Dr. Rami and to meet with him. So great, such a great sharing. So I'm going to throw this question. I think this is something that we would all like to know. So I'll stay for Dr. Rami first, and then we'll go to the other panelists. Po, no? Um, for this one, what are the different challenges UV or your institutions face in implementing the blended learning or the online learning program? So what are those challenges that each and every administrator faces here? So we can actually go around the table. Dr. Rami, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Judith. The number one challenge really on our end is in the implementation of flexible learning, particularly with, we call it as a challenge, not a problem, because we are looking for solutions. And the number one challenge is the capability of our students to connect to their classes virtually and synchronously. And so because of, as I've shared earlier, we cater to classes B, C, and D students. So the lack of devices, internet infrastructure in some remote places. We have students from some remote areas in Mindanao and some parts in Leyte. So what we did was we make it innovative. We're in, because our goal is for the students to be, all of them, all types of students, those with strong internet connectivity and those with intermittent connectivity will be able to complete their studies on time is that we crafted these innovative plans. So we have the hybrid or pure asynchronous students, but with monitoring mechanisms, and of course the synchronous students. So there we have two types of categories of learning in the university. But prior to that, early on, start of the lockdown, we had three. We had the offline, we have the hybrid, and we have the pure online. I think based on the earliest CMOs issued by the Commission on Higher Education, these are the three categories. So we were able to implement this, but we shifted because later on, in the middle of the pandemic, students were able um, to acquire gadgets. But again, in terms of the University of the Visayas, it's not always, usually when we make policy development, it's always from the administrator side. But on our end, it's always from the end users. We always ask the parents, the teachers, the students, and even our teachers, our primary stakeholders, as to what really is the situation. How are we going to cater to all types of students? So we get the information from them, and we use this information in crafting our policies. But going back, it's always the technology, the device. It's always the connectivity. Number one concerns of two of the concerns of the University of the Visayas in terms of the implementation, because of the nature of our students, the economic class of the students that we cater. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So I do know that this is actually probably a very common challenge in the Philippines, no? No matter where we are, as all of our attendees can see, we have schools from Luzon, Mindanao, and the Visayas. So internet connectivity device, sometimes the devices used, it may seem to be a challenge. So Doc James has his hands raised. Doc
Yeah,
James, would you like to add
yeah.
or
I'd like to,
comment on anything?
yes, Judith. I'd like to pick up from the sharing of Rami, because, like what I said, when the government declared the lockdown, we did a university-wide survey, getting three areas. No, I mean, parents' voice, students' voice, and the faculty's voices. And it came out that, well, it indeed it's really connectivity as one of the main issues, and
Yeah.
then the availability of gadgets for all the students. And
Yeah.
so basically, we address also those items, and eventually made us decide to come up with the flexible learning system that is fourfold. No, because I did not continue sharing my PowerPoint a while back. So our flexible system at the time, it was blended learning, hoping. No, there's a first blended learning, hoping that COVID situation will be gone soon or soonest. So we anticipated that will be full online plus face to face. Then we have full online for any eventuality that the COVID situation will not be good. There is full online. But how about those who are not connected or who could only have slight connectivity? So we had correspondence, we called it correspondence learning modality one, electronic version that can be, lessons can be sent via email, and still also maintain those who could not really have connection, zero connection at all with the internet. So we had correspondence learning modality
Wow.
two, where we had the module printed.
Wow.
So we practically address so that we believe indeed that nobody should be left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
agree.
all of our students have been attended to in terms of their needs. So I am sharing this because there might be school administrators who might be thinking that it is very challenging enough. Of course, it is, no? Challenging enough to craft policies, to think about or make decisions about continuity of learning. And then more than that, no, more than that, eventually even the kind of modalities that we have should also be guided with the IATF protocols from time to
Oh
time,
yeah.
and the development of the COVID-19 in terms of the situation. and with the alert level system in place and so on. I'd like to share to you that for a while we suspended the print modality because when there was an increase in the number of COVID cases brought about by Omicron, no, when there was Omicron. So I am sharing this because we cannot really detach, no, our decisions in online education with the COVID situation that we are in. So hand
Yes.
in hand, and in fact, it's the challenge because Judith, you asked us also, what are the challenges, in fact, in implemented the blended learning? And easily, our IATF officials would change a lot of their terminologies or nomenclatures. Tomorrow, we are alert level
Yes.
2, but they are following alert level 1 conditions or vice versa. So we have always met that. In fact, during the face-to-face situation that we were in, no, we were in alert level 1, but we were not allowed to do face-to-face. And in the
Yes.
IATF protocols, we should be able already to get full classroom of our students, no? So you see, we are all guided by these challenges, but that, of course, it did not stop us from really pursuing. Because again, I always say, if you don't risk, you don't have business. If you would ask us, well, did we really get into the next face-to-face system that we wanted? We are one of the first in the entire country, and in fact, the first to graduate face-to-face. Well, you may have seen that for a while, no? Because again, if you don't put risk, well, there's no business. And that's why I would like to say to the group that kami ay mapangahas at some point because we wanted really education to continue. So those points, meantime, in relation to the sharing of our companion here, Ram.
Okay.
Judith.
Thank you, Doc James. So before we go to our second to the last focus topic, I would like to actually also hear the different challenges which FCUU might have encountered during their implementation of the online or blended learning program. So, Father Randy, can you just give us a bit of insight of how FCUU was doing it and how they were able to overcome the obstacles?
Okay. Basically, two things. No, I don't like to repeat. No, because the digital divide has been that's the overall challenge. Uh, Basically, I like to mention two things. First one, when we decided to move towards fully digital online learning, we decided to adopt a standard pedagogical model, no, the 5 E's, which we wanted to, which we that's the model of pedagogy which we wanted the teachers to follow. No? So there was a challenge on how to, because not, especially in a university like ours, we offer many different programs. Not all are trained in the teacher education craft.
Yeah.
And so people, those in engineering, computer studies, and so on and so forth, they were kind of having a hard time adjusting on how to craft a lesson following the 5 E's pedagogical model. The solution we had when in the many meetings and consultations that I had with my deans and the other stakeholders, uh, I told them that it's very important to follow a standardized pedagogical model because that's how we were able to monitor and evaluate the progress of the teachers. But I also told them uh, I also am sensitive of the particularity of the context of a certain course offering or a program. So, for example, in our law school, okay, you can implement some sort of a 5 E's model without really having to straitjacket your content and your style of teaching.
Agree.
So there is a pedagogical model that we follow, but at the same time, we allow for some contextual flexibility. That's the first challenge. No? So and we're kind of solving it slowly. No, now the teachers are and the instructors with the help of course, no, our unkabogable Jen Padernal and our LMS trainers, we're able to get everyone on board. The second challenge for us uh, because we were really surprised. No, we were not like St. Louis or UV that who were early adopters of the blended learning. We we had some sort of a 180 shift from full face to face to ODL.
Yeah.
No, So,
Oh.
so for us, it was a huge adjustment, and even for our students. So on the first months of our implementation, our students and our teachers were grappling with the volume of lessons, class matter, and assessments. So, yung mga estudyante namin dito, sabi nila hyper-dumping of content daw yung sa game language nila. So hyper-dumping of content, maraming assessment. In fact, when we did our university days, no, digital university days using the NEO LMS, ang daming meme about the number of assessments na parang aalis ka lang ng 5 minutes, nagiging 300 na yung assessment na gagawin ng bata, no. So that was another challenge. And of course, no, I think a lot of administrators are encountering this, yung integrity of the answers of the assessments. Challenge yun. Kasi sa amin, for example dito, kung merong mga watch party sa electoral campaign,
Yeah.
merong kaming assessment parties sa mga bata. No? So even the parents themselves, they organize assessment parties. And they will have a party and they will answer the assessments together. But that puts into question the quality and the integrity of the assessments. Marami pa, pero yun lang muna. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Randy. So those insights from all three of the universities, so from all parts of the Philippines, it's good that there are common challenges, and the way that we attack them, or the way that the institutions are attacking them, they're very, they give us a lot of hope, no? So Filipinas, we will be able to really probably have blended learning soon. It'll be normalized. Hybrid learning will be normalized soon because of of the institutions who are here today, frontliners talaga, at saka, no, they're really for front runners of the education system here. So I'm going to change our focus topic now. We're going to go to the assessment giving. And Sir Alfie of the University of Batangas, so I bet a lot of our attendees are really excited and waiting to see what are the best practices in giving assessments in an online learning program. So Sir Alfie, hi sir.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Judith. So good afternoon to everyone. So for today, I'm going to share to you how assessments can be done, whether it is in blended or in hybrid learning and teaching. And some of these methods or strategies we have already practiced also in the university. Yeah, so before I start, I would like to thank NEO and Cypher Learning for inviting me here to discuss this topic. All right, so before we move on to the next slide, so I would like you to think of a word that reminds you of the word assessment. So you can type it in the chat box. So for those who are now online on Facebook or here in the Zoom, so yeah, I just would like to get your insights about your knowledge about assessment. All right, so let's now proceed. So let's first define what is assessment. So assessment is a term that refers to the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document academic readiness. Also with progress, skill acquisition, and other educational needs of the students. And this is something that I'm going to share later on how these varied methods or tools can actually help us to evaluate, measure our students' progress. So there are 4 assessment strategies that I would like to share for this afternoon. There are a lot of assessment strategies that we can use in a hybrid or blended setup. But of course, let us limit it to 4, because if we're going to discuss all of these strategies, it will take us a lot of time, okay? Since we have a limited time for today. All right, so the first one that I would like to share is the one-on-one conferences. In terms of conferences, you can do it with your students, of course. Yeah, it could be a one-on-one, it could be a group. So as defined by Gray in 2020, so a conference is a prescribed conversation, okay, or with a student or students on a topic you'd like to assess. So whether it is in person or online. And conferences, this could actually help you lessen the burden of checking other types of assessments. Let's say you ask your students to write an essay. So you can have them present, okay, the essay on a one-on-one conference. So it can actually help you to see also, or to check whether the student actually did or wrote the essay itself. Now, we do have different applications that we can use for us to conduct assessments. Conferences. So we have, I guess you can identify the logos that we have here. Yeah, so the first one, we have the Zoom, and then we also have the Google Meet, and then the Microsoft Teams. Now, what's good with NEO, or with UBN, if we contextualize it in our institution, is that you can already set a schedule, or simply include in messaging the MS Teams, Google Meet, and also you can also copy the link of Zoom, yeah, instantly when you use NEO LMS. Now, the second type of assessment that or the assessment strategy that we're going to discuss is the higher order thinking assignments. Now, when we say higher order thinking, we have to refer to the Bloom's taxonomy. So I know that all of you are familiar already with the Bloom's taxonomy, and on top we have the what we call as create, which is the highest among the among the items in the Bloom's taxonomy. Now, how are we going to develop assessment tasks with HOTS? So these are just some of the examples. So we can create, let's say, a media production, something that you have filmed or the students have recorded in video. Yeah, so they can apply the principles of persuasion. They can also practice self-evaluation of literacy skills and goal setting through metacognition, and also create digital stories. The next one is digital quizzes. Now, with digital quizzes, it's very easy for us to create these digital quizzes in our platform. And also, what I like with the platform that we are using is that we are given a variety of assessment types. So as you can see here, we have different assessment types that we can choose from. So we have, let's say, true or false, multiple choice with many answers, fill in the blanks, free-form, matching, hotspot, and arithmetic. And what's good with some of these types, let's say if you have a free-form type of assessment, you can also incorporate rubrics. And it's very easy to check because the rubric itself, you can just handpick the score of a particular criterion in the rubric, and then automatically it will generate the score. Next is the digital writing discussions. So yeah, so when you create an assignment, so you can actually choose the discussion. And this is actually an example of a discussion. So here we have a video that the students will need to watch. So from the video, they have to write or share the concepts that they have learned from the video. And then later on, they have to reply, stating their insight into one of the posts of their classmates. Okay, so this is an example of a post in the discussion itself. Right. So I just did not include the names of these students for privacy. Okay. Yeah. And then this is actually the teacher's view. So you can actually grade them directly if you don't have a rubric. You can also type in the comments that you and your student can actually see. Okay. What's good with the NEO platform or the UBN platform is that you can have also the option to have the rubrics. So here we do have the criterions. When you actually point in the particular criterion, it will appear what criterion is stated there. Okay, but then since this is embedded in the presentation, so yeah, we cannot view what the particular criterion would actually say. Yeah. All right, so let me just add, of course, portfolio. So defining portfolio, this is a collection of a student's work. But it is not just a collection of students' work, because this is a reflection of how they progress in a particular course or in a particular field or area of a specialization. So I highlighted here the words collection and reflect, because that's basically the purpose of portfolio. It is not just to collect the works, but students have to reflect also of what they did. Okay, so I remember when I was still studying in my master's. So Dr. Magno, who is also one of the experts in assessment in the Philippines, he shared to us that it's also important that we engage our students to reflect also with their works uh, in a particular specialization. So what's interesting with UBN or NEO, students can actually reflect. So NEO develop the portfolio not just to store the documents, but they have developed it in a way that it really captures the concept of portfolio. So there is a way here where students can actually add their own comments about their particular work. Now, just to end this presentation, I have some tips. Okay, so some assessment tips. So I have this acronym cute. So the first one is to choose the appropriate assessment. Now with NEO, you can actually do that, okay? Because of the various assessment types that we have already in the system or in the platform. Utilize the available resources. So of course, we already have an available resource, which is the LMS. But if in your institutions you still have other softwares that you can actually integrate, then you may also do so. Yeah, and with NEO or with UBN, there are a lot of softwares that we can actually integrate with it. Of course, you have to test or conduct a dry run. And with NEO, there's actually the capability for us to have a dry or to test our assessments that we make, and also evaluate your assessment. Yeah. So one of our panelists a while ago shared to us that they are using the item analysis, and that's a very good way on how we can actually evaluate our assessments that we have created. And NEO actually did a good job in doing that and making it possible for us. So that's all for my presentation for this afternoon. Thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone.
Okay, thanks, no, Sir Alfie. So just very quickly, can you just let us know how UB? So I'm also going to be asking this to the Sa University das Marinas. How does the
Yeah.
university avoid massive academic burnout amongst its students during midterms, final, quarterly exams,
Yes.
etc.? So how does
Yes.
UB address that concern?
All right. So we do have, or in advance with the major exams, we advise already the teachers to, of course, do not bombard them with so much activities anymore. We do have this 2-week period wherein teachers should limit already the the activities or the assessments that they're going to give. So as for these students to prepare ahead for their exams. Yeah, and we're actually doing this practice even before the pandemic hit. Yeah.
Okay. So before we go to our last focus topic, which is digital citizenship, I would just like to also get insight from DLSUD Senior High School. What are the adjustments in giving assessments in your setup, in the blended learning setup?
For the annual strategy, we have two summative exams per week. Because it's modular, they cannot proceed to the next module unless they pass
Yeah.
the quiz. It's a very short quiz, but we have very extensive data, what do you call this, question bank, because we give them
Oh, I
several
see.
attempts. So the several attempts, we have question banks for each of these gateway assessments, we call them. So the question banks would, for each attempt, it will be a different set of questions. So it's really building question banks. So the
Oh,
question bank, one question bank would measure same level of difficulty, same level of same competency, but it would have three different questions for each attempt. So there. Then, because there's a notification, right, of how many assessments are due. So
yes,
one thing that
yes.
we do is for formative assessments, we do not require them. But to
Mhm.
ensure engagement, we gamify them.
Oh, I
So the,
see.
the points are in the formatives. A lot of points are in the formative assessment. So we make the gamification really worth their while. There are rewards that they really that's really want. So that is how we engage them. So if you do not require it, it will. I think it will not appear on the
To do.
assessments due.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would appear only on the assessments due are the summative um, exams. And
Oh,
because the animal strategy divided the semester into two, they're only having 5 subjects at a time. So yung academic burnout, unless talagang nagpa-procrastinate yung bata, hindi siya
yes.
matatabi. Yan. And one way to ensure that they would not procrastinate is teacher accompaniment, really, is very important. We give emphasis on that teachers should always accompany their students in their learning journey. That's how
Okay.
we do it in ALSCD Senior High.
Thanks, Ma'am Lisa. So, Doc James, your hand is raised. Doc, can you give us a
Yes.
2-minute,
It,
2-minute
I saw.
summary of your best practices?
Okay. In fact, I was about to say it's a mortal sin for me not to share because to be able to avoid burnout and to be able to avoid the issues of students on their wellness and both mental and physical. Because I can imagine, as you know, as a science teacher, facing the computer for a whole day is doing three times a physical activity. It can be taxing, it can be draining at some point, which we are conscious about. But let me go back to the assessment. And so it became an institutional policy from basic education up to graduate school that there should be a limitation in terms of the number of performance tasks, number of items which we have devised, which should be true to all. And when we say that a major exam should be really different from the usual quiz or written works, no, which Ed would describe. They say written work for the quizzes, and well, it is such that it is still is within the usual time frame as if it were in a traditional classroom. So that basically the flavor of the exams were still the same as it were in the pandemic, just that there was a little reduction in terms of the number of items. But that, let me go back because tasks are necessary to reinforce learning. So for every subject, we only have one performance task per subject. So if a high school student has 12 subjects, the expectation is he or she will finish the 12 performance tasks on a common deadline, which is a Friday. And there's common uploading of all materials, test questions, and the lessons on a Monday. Now, if at all there are issues of students about connectivity, despite the fact that he chose full online, because it happens that there are areas where connectivity is low. So naturally, there is also a leeway for validation of whether is it really true that there was a connection problem in the area which needs to be validated. And again, the student should be kind enough to message the teacher, because if we did not receive any message, then that cannot be considered. It is presumed that he finished the exams
Yes.
as if, because again, we provided all connections or communication systems allowable so that every student's concern in terms of assessment and in terms of his online learning, it has to be communicated, because without that communication, then that will not be considered, or there will be no more adjustments or considerations to be extended to him or her. In fact, we went through this difficult situation of students comparing that a minor subject became a major subject. To that extent, how they describe it. Pa-major itong si general education subject na humanities lang naman, and you know, all those labels. And that's why we really have to sit down again, rationalize to the specific items. We say how many items of multiple choice, how many questions for essay should really be set. If that is how to really be able to control our teachers, because there are also those who also do not think of the welfare of their students. There are those eventually who I have to issue memorandum because even in the middle of the night would also give an assessment. And I tell you, there are those who are not considerate. And well, you know, the wisest thing that I did, the line of the VP ACAD is 24/7 available. That's why they can tell me who the teacher is doing this and that. And we right away address. And well, we're happy because we are early users of NEO LMS. That's why it was really easy to make the necessary adjustments eventually in handling and adjusting our systems to the kind of situation that we are in. There might be another chance later on, Judith, to share more because there can be a lot of details that can be very specific and can be
Yes.
helpful to people. Thank you.
Actually, we do have a question about best practices of assessment. So baka doon we can, we can and get into it more. So thank you for that, Doc James. So lastly, our last topic rather is digital citizenship and NEO LMS, and this is going to be first presented by Father Randy of SCUU. So hi, sir, Father Randy. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Let me share my screen. Uh, can you see my presentation?
Yes, Father Randy.
Okay. First, thank you for this opportunity. Um, First, I'd like to begin by contextualizing our educational practices. Our university is located in Caraga region, which is Region 13, and it's the second poorest province in the country. And so, um, with the COVID-19, the socioeconomic divide that is already existing in Caraga manifests itself in the many other divides, including digital divide. So when the COVID pandemic hit, we were in a way ushered forcefully to make a decision whether to adapt or to wither. So of course we immediately made the decision, and after a survey which we did with our students, considering all the facts and data we gathered on the ground, um, I wrote an academic briefer, which I presented to the administrators, including the president and some members of the board, in relation to possibly a frame and an understanding of some sort of a broad philosophy of education, which provided the framework and modality of our implementation for COVID. This briefer considered issues on digital divide, vis-a-vis access, infrastructure, and digital literacy, the divide between the digital natives and the digital immigrants. And we also crafted from this data and from the briefer and consultations a learning continuity plan which looked into the technical capability, availability of resources, and so on and so forth. And we tried to pilot this, in a summer program before we implemented it in the school year. As I've mentioned, we did surveys, and the data that we gathered in the survey made us realize that when we want to implement a fully online school year, it has to be inclusive. So the approach of digital citizenship, the onboarding of students and teachers, it has to be inclusive. And because of this, we we made it very clear, in the academic briefer that we crafted, that inclusivity is a non-negotiable for us. And so we tried to compose teams, because different from other universities, we were not doing any blended or hybrid learning before. So it was from face to face to fully online. And so we we created committees. The first one was a sort of an LMS champions committee. I call this our core team, and the core team were charged or was charged with brainstorming, inviting LMS providers, and our network at AUDRN, Asian Universities Digital Resource Network, helped us a lot because our director, our dean for graduate studies, has already a prior connection with Jen in the AUDRN days. And this led us to the partnership with Cypher Learning, NEO LMS. And what worked for us was that the core team that we composed, were administrators and teachers who were sensitive to the needs of the digital immigrants. And so to ensure that there is ownership of the new platform, we chose a core team that knows the terrain of implementation. So it was kind of a ground up approach rather than the board of trustees and then the president myself creating policies. We started with what's happening on the ground, asking those who are familiar with the terrain of implementation. And then after that, we organized a trainers pool that was supposed to help the teachers, and indeed they helped the teachers in uh, in doing trainings, no, even one-on-one tutorial for digital immigrants, skills enhancement, no, evaluating on the level of illiteracy, uh, the basic things in uploading lessons, in the pedagogical models, in creating assessments, and so on and so forth. And then the final body that we've created uh, is the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, which was focused on uh, the digital implementation. No? So basically, this committee gives a feedback to the deans, at the same time monitors the progress of the teachers, whether they have indeed aligned the outcomes, the ongoing lessons, and so on and so forth. Um, the third point that I'd like to share is that from the very start, there was already an institutional and management onboarding. So what was mentioned early on in relation to the importance of leadership, this was not a big hurdle to us, because as early as March, when the pandemic hit, when the lockdown was announced by IATF and DILG, as early as March, we were already convening the management team. We were consulting the members of the board on how to best proceed. And so from the very start, there was a political will on the part of the management. There was financial support. There was, and we have a very good management team, and we leveraged this in order to push for this kind of shift in the modality of implementation. And so uh, in the academic briefer that I presented to the administrator, I have always emphasized that it takes for a whole community to overcome the challenges of the pandemic and distance learning. This cannot be done by just one part component of the university. And so with the institutional onboarding, we created policies of the institution. We branded the NEO LMS as FSUU Learn, so that the community will begin to own it as our digital classroom, as our digital university. We provided numerous trainings, tutorials for the digital immigrants. And I'm so happy to see our millennials and Gen Z teachers very much willing and generous with their time. In fact, they will visit house to house just to teach and to tutor, handhold teachers who are immigrants, who are digital immigrants. The fourth that I'd like to share, no, second to the last, is that uh, we are also trying very much that we have to enhance our digital citizenship skills and content delivery. And so early on, we did online curriculum mapping, where we adopted the 5Es pedagogical model. Last year, the second year of our implementation of the digital classroom, we pushed for the standardization of content, no? Because one of the things that we found out was that because the teachers were in a way surprised by the migration of content, there is some sort of asymmetry in relation to how one teacher delivers a content, makes videos, and so on and so forth. So what we did was that we created a policy of standardizing a content. It's like implementing a digital textbook writing for us. And I'm happy to report that as of this conference, this webinar, we're about 90% in the standardization of our content in our gen ed subjects. So we hope to move next year towards standardization of our content in the professional subjects in various departments and programs. Um, it's also nice to see how teachers are collaborating in the creation of classes, no, and in even in sharing with their best practices. Uh, as VP for Academics and Research, I encourage action researches on how the LMS has enhanced our capacity to learn, the types of competencies. So there are a lot of action researches being presented last year, especially at the basic education department and senior high of the university. And these researches helped us a lot in the fine tuning of our policies, our implementation, and our practices. Uh, the final slide that I'd like to share is what I call as digital citizenship and nation building. Um, just like in our physical society, there are those who are unfortunately left behind. In the digital learning, we notice that there are also digital citizens who are in the last, the least, and the lost, no, in the digital learning. And so, what I did in cooperation with the academic council and with the deans and principals, we made a decision to look at the outcomes and the assessments and see and evaluate which are the least learned competencies. While uh, in our honest assessment, we were able to implement a very good digital school year. Still, we are seeing that there are competencies which are best learned face to face. And so we were honestly looking at ourselves, and we said that okay, there are competencies which are not which are least learned, no, in a digital environment. So we're doing a remediation program this summer for free for our students. The second thing that I'd like to highlight is that in this digital citizenship for nation building, we are uh, doing and we are using the platform FSU Learn NEO LMS to do voters education. And in the slide, we are using, because we are uh, advocates for peace, no, in this university. We do an annual peace conference with various stakeholders, IPs, Moro brothers and sisters, and so on and so forth. And the output of this peace conference, we uploaded it into our resource, in our learning resource in ULMS, hoping that students and teachers will be able to benefit, no? And so the platform has become a platform for peace building, and this is something that we're very proud of. Uh, During the anniversary of EDSA Revolution, we also uploaded content, no, to make sure that there's no historical revisionism going on. We make sure that students are aware of their role as engaged citizens. And so, as of parallel with this session now, is the third installment of our Voters Education webinar series. And we've invited Ms. Bernadette Reyes of GMA, and she is helping our students. Now they're live, they're doing voters education. Uh, I always believe that when we speak about digital citizenship, it's really about how to engage the students, not only in educational content, but how to educate them in relation to how they are going to become active participants in the task of nation building. And with that, I thank you. Salamat. Thanks for the opportunity.
Father Randy, I'm speechless that the case use of new LMS and FCU is one of the most interesting ones that I have seen since I've started in cyber learning. So Father Randy, thank you so much for sharing. Just to, we don't have as much time no anymore. Actually, overtime na po tayo, but it's very worth it because our discussion was very, very great. I would just like to ask if it's okay for FCU and UV, no, and then we're going to go into our question and answer portion. Considering that we are all of the institutions present today, we are users of NEO LMS. For FCU, can you just give us a very quick how we can start, practicing and promoting digital citizenship with, with, um, with, NEO?
Father
Is that for
Andy.
me? Is that for
Yes,
me? Okay.
yes.
Sorry. um, it's, I think it begins with a certain awareness raising. Uh, in our case, our university has been very much involved in the advocacies of environment, engaged citizenship, electoral reform, even the advocacies that we've undertaken since 2009. Uh, we have been involved and we have been working on the ground with the community. So it came very naturally for us that our advocacy, how we use and define citizenship in relation to the platform, is not something that's kind of a struggle for us, because it was just a matter of enriching what we're offering in the NEO LMS in FSU Learn with the content that we have been and with the reflections that we have been uh, realizing on the ground since 2009. No? And so for me, if you ask me for a first step, I think it begins with an awareness raising in relation, and the leaders matter. When the leaders are forceful in putting forward a certain that extension, in fact, no, the the three roles of a university: instruction, extension, research. For us, we don't like to use the word extension because it seems that it is in extrinsic to the university. We call it involvement and advocacy. So by being a university, we are already participants immediately to the community. So we don't see ourselves as an ivory tower or a safe haven of ideas.
Yeah.
It has to be tested on the ground. And so if an engaged digital citizenship has to engage, with issues which are not usually being talked about in digital platforms like this. But for us, it's very, very enriching.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Sir Randy. I wish we had time to, go around the table to get insight about that. But we're going to be transitioning to our next part of our program today, and that's the Q&A. And actually, I'm going to take so this is one of the questions that we have prepared. And if it's okay for all of our participants to turn on their cameras and just to get ready for that. So in relation to what Father Randy has been talking about, digital citizenship, um, if you can just give us a very summarized answer, all of our participants will go one by one. If you can use NEO LMS, like in the case use of Father Randy rather, can you promote something, or what would you promote as an institution, as a university? So of course with Father Randy, he's there promoting digital citizenship, and it's a very localized for FCUU. Can we go to Sir James first? What would you use NEO LMS to really I guess promote, or to have an awareness campaign or advocacy campaign?
Well, practically, we have used the NEO LMS in various ways. No, in fact, even our own election. No, and we have one upcoming for next school year, making use of the NEO LMS. No, other than that, we have also different advocacies. No, of our community engagement and advocacy center, wherein every department might want to share an important information or developments in the specific advocacies of the department. And more than that, I also would like to share that we have created online teacher academies, also enrolling the
Wow.
teachers per department as if a separate class, because there are things that the principal would want to share only to the teachers, as there would be like announcements coming from administration through to both teachers and students. So there are a lot of ways by which NEO LMS can be used. And being one of the early users since 2016, I can easily tell you that in fact, way forward, and as we look forward, I mentioned about our four modalities, and I will add high flex learning, that we will venture into the hybrid and flexible in which a student might opt to have full online even while we will have full face-to-face later on. And so LMS will continue to be part of us, NEO LMS in particular, because not
Thank
only that it is very affordable, no, to parents, because we're also very conscious of that. When we decided to come up to join forces with NEO LMS or to adopt the system, it was really a choice of six. No, there were competing providers,
Mhm.
and well, as expensive as almost 3,000 for one. That's 2,500. But eventually, we adopted NEO LMS because it was financially practical for us, and also parents were in agreement because we always, in our system of doing things, we always consult our family councils because that's the way to go. There's ownership of the program, there's ownership of the
Yes,
system, even the
agree,
processes in the school. And
agree.
certainly that's a big help. And so,
Okay.
well, if there would be other opportunities, I can probably have more time
Yes.
to share. But let it be known that NEO LMS will be here to stay with the University of St. Louis. It's
Thank
a very good
you.
part. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Doc James. So insightful. Ma'am Lisa, for DLSUD Senior High School, and we can also include DLSUD as the university. Yes. Anything that we would like to promote, maybe in the near future, or any for NEO LMS and the university and the high school?
Well, for to answer first your question earlier on how we use NEO in promoting our advocacies. So usually it is in collaboration with the Lasallian Community Development Center. We have projects with them, discourse activities wherein it is coursed through the NEO LMS. Like for environment, for voters advocacy, engagement with the community, things like that. And for digital citizenship, I think it really helps if teachers are doing collaboration because it rubs off the from the those who are good at it and those who are new at it. So they when they work together, those who are not really experts yet are not yet there in that level of expertise, they learn from these teachers. They learn by doing, and that I think that is the most effective way of adopting to it. That's it. Thank
Agree.
you. Yeah.
Thank you, Ma'am Lisa. Sir Alfie,
Yes.
same question.
Yeah. Earlier, I forgot to mention that we have also a dedicated team who handles the support and, of course, the assistance when it comes to the utilization of our LMS. So we call this as CHAMP. So I am actually part of it, and we are actually a team who actually supports the faculty, the staff, and the practically the whole institution itself. Yeah, so it stands for Center for Heritage Advancement, Mentoring, and Pedagogy. And I remember one time that when we had a conversation in the team, yeah, spearheaded also with our Vice President for External Affairs, Dr. Abigail Chua. There was one thing that we would actually would like to integrate to heritage, and that's one thing that we would like to advocate. Especially, Batangas is known for coffee. So that's something that we are actually looking forward to in developing education that relates to the production of coffee or to marketing and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Alfie. So, and lastly, Doc Rami, how can UV start using Neo LS if there are already plans or if there are already ongoing projects of Neo LMS promotion with UV?
Yes, Miss Judith. Actually, we always defer to our strategic plan, our 3-year long-term strategic plan. And our strategic plan is internationalization. As a
Oh.
matter of fact, some because we also have international students, and we are using the learning management system, the NEO LMS, in doing instruction for our international students. And so, because of the changing landscape of our education, accelerated by COVID-19, and so we will be using digital platforms. This will now be our goal as well in the coming years, whether we're going to go back to traditional or to the face-to-face learning. We'll still be using digital platforms. We'll be promoting digital platforms because of course, no, to respond to industrial 4.0. And so
Yeah, agree.
because of that, uh, we will be using the learning management system as our flagship program in promoting internationalization in the University of the Visayas. And to add to that, because all our programs are also undergoing accreditations, internationalization is also now considered as one of a requirement, a requisite for accreditation. And so we'll continue with digital learning um, in the coming years. Thank you.
Okay. Um, so we really we're already over time at 4 o'clock. So before I pass it to Miss Mika to end our program, and we also have a raffle, so please stay for our raffle. I would actually like to give acknowledgement and call on Miss Jen Padernal. She's our global tech director here at Cypher Learning. She is my boss, and actually, to be honest, this webinar would not be possible without her assistance, without her passion, without all of her networks and everything and her relationships with each and every one of our schools today. So, Ma'am Jen, hi, ma'am. Ma'am, muted po. Audio.
There. Ayan, excited kasi ako. I would just like to express my gratitude, heartfelt gratitude, and thanks to everybody. Yung lahat po ng schools, also all of the schools here and all of our speakers are very close to my heart. Lahat po kasi sila, I've seen how they started, I've seen how they've grown, and now hearing everything that they have shared, it's making me really happy. My heart is really overwhelmed with happiness. And I'm very, very proud of what everyone has accomplished. Really, I'm very proud of everyone, every school. Doc James, Father Randy, Ma'am Liza, Sir Alfie, Doc Rami. I know what you went through. I've been there. I've seen all of the efforts and how hard you've worked to make all of this possible, and that you're doing this for education and for the future of the children and for the future of our country. I'm really so proud. I'm just so proud, and I just want to express a heartfelt thanks also on behalf of Cypher Learning. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing. Thank you for partnering with us, and please rest assured that we will continue to be here to support you in everything that you're doing for the love of education and for the love of our country. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Jen. Thank you. And again, thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to our attendees. Again, sorry po, nag-overtime po tayo. But remember, we do have a raffle, but the discussion today was so insightful. It was amazing getting to hear all of the case uses and getting to see all different kinds of practices from all over the country has been one of the most fruitful experiences we've had this year so far here at Cyber Learning. So I'm now going to turn it back over to our host, Micaela Lopez. Thank you, Mika.
Thank you very much, Judith, Ma'am Jen, and of course, guest speakers for an engaging and interactive discussion. We have learned a lot this afternoon. And yes, Judith, you are correct. We are not done yet because our team prepared something exciting for you guys. Because today's attendees will be entered into a raffle for a chance to win a 1,000 Lazada voucher. But before I announce our three lucky winners, let's watch this short video first from Cypher Learning.
Technology has transformed many aspects of our lives, including the way we teach and learn. making it possible for education to become more accessible, engaging, and empowering. Through online learning, teachers can connect with their students anytime and anywhere. Organizations efficiently train thousands of employees remotely, and anyone can share their knowledge with the world. Cypher Learning transforms education by providing an intelligent learning platform for every learning need. Whether it's teaching students, onboarding employees, or selling online courses, our learning platform was designed to make it easy for schools, businesses, and individuals to deliver the best learning experiences. We provide an all-in-one integrated solution for creating online courses, tracking learner progress, and developing employee skills. Through an intuitive design, Cypher Learning provides an engaging experience that makes learning enjoyable for users of all ages. Teaching becomes more effective thanks to our intelligent features that guide learners towards their goals and provide proactive assistance to help them master skills and improve learning outcomes. Our vision is education-focused, and we know that technology still needs a human touch. That's why our team of dedicated EdTech experts is ready to guide you every step of the way with helpful resources and strategies. At Cypher Learning, we're on a mission to transform education and the way people teach and learn worldwide. The future of learning starts with Cypher Learning. Join us in our mission.
All right, there you have it. So I know every one of you are very excited to know who are the lucky winners. Okay, so JP, can you please share our PowerPoint presentation? All right, so our lucky winners are, of course, our first winner is Sarah. Hold on, there is something on my screen. Okay. Ready, Sara Delector, Arnel Maghinay, and Ivan Abaro. Congratulations. Okay. So congratulations, lucky winners. Kindly check your emails as one of our colleagues will reach out to you shortly to discuss the logistics of your prize. All right. So I hope everyone acquired new knowledge this afternoon. We are grateful for your active participation. Again, I am Mika Lopez, the EdTech trainer for the Philippines. Goodbye. Stay safe and have a great weekend, everyone.
Please stay po for the photo op. Marami pong salamat ulit. Thank you very much to all who attended this webinar sa ating mga rockstar educators. Are we ready for the picture taking? Siyempre, kailangan lagi may picture taking. Yeah. Sino magpipicture? Si JP ba? Sige. I'll take the photo na. JP and Ali, would you like to also